What is up, Comic Book Nation? Connor Casey here, and I'm here with the reigning AEW World Tag Team Champions, Scorpio Sky and Frankie Kazarian, and also Christopher Daniels, better known as SCU.
SCU!
Guys, how you doing today?
Great.
Thanks for having us, man.
If we were any better, it'd be against the law.
Well, there you go. So we've got AEW Dynamite coming to the Nashville Municipal Auditorium this Wednesday. What can fans expect if they haven't seen AEW live?
Well, we truly are the alternative. We have a harder-hitting, more fast-paced, action-packed style, the likes of which wrestling fans haven't seen. And seeing AEW Dynamite on television was one thing. Seeing it live and in person is entirely different. Our shows are stacked top to bottom, and people that have seen like BTE shows, they see that oftentimes we'll stay a little bit extra and do some fun stuff with the crowd and just stuff you're not going to see elsewhere. And it's just really one of those nights that take the casual fans and turn them into lifelong fans.
Yeah, AEW certainly has a party atmosphere that especially Matt and Nick, the Young Bucks, have sort of tried to emphasize in their own matches. They've taken it now to this whole promotion. And anyone that's come to an AEW show so far has found out that it's literally a party from the beginning bell to the end of the night. And that's going to be no exception in Nashville.
Anything, Scorp?
You can expect Dynamite, baby.
There you go. Now, you guys have these fantastic tag belts here. You guys have been killing it in the tag division so far. What separates this tag team division for some of the other companies in the country and around the world?
I think this tag team division is the most stacked division in all of wrestling, and not just tags, but in singles. You have so many teams that can all carry the company as the champions. Talking about us, we're talking about Lucha Brothers, obviously the Young Bucks, probably the best tag team of the last 10 years, and the list goes on and on. We just so happen to be at the top of it, and it's a great honor to carry these championships and be the very first champions at that.
Yeah, certainly depth of roster. I mean, just look at the teams that were in the tournament. The Lucha Brothers and the Young Bucks and Private Party and Best Friends and Dark Order, and it's just one team after the other. It's stacked. It's just absolutely stacked. And then you got other singles wrestlers trying to pair up and go after the belt. So it's that I will put this tag team roster up against any other tag team roster, past, present, or future, to be honest.
There you go. Chris, you mentioned after Full Gear that you weren't interested in doing the Freebird Rule with this tag title reign. Why did you decide to go that way?
Well, honestly, it wouldn't be fair to these guys. I mean, they did the hard work. They went through the tournament on their own. And, you know, if circumstances were different, maybe it would have been me and Frankie in the finals. Maybe Frankie and I would be World Tag Team Champions on our own. But it went the way it did. These guys, they fought the fight and they won the titles. So I feel like it would be very unfair of me to try and take a position as a co-holder of one of these tag titles for a defense. And honestly, you know, the fact that they've got their names inscribed on the belts, on the plates, that sort of makes it hard for me to carry a belt that doesn't have my name on it. So that's fine with me. I'm not looking to ride the coattails of my partners. They earned it, and they are the World Tag Team Champions. I'll have my opportunity to be a champion in AEW soon enough.
Now, kind of the big story, one of them coming out of Full Gear, was that pretty violent Moxley versus Omega match there at the end. What was your guys' reaction to watching the match backstage? And do you have any interest bringing that kind of death match style to the tag division?
My reaction was I was glad I was not in that match. Those guys, they brought a new level of violence, the likes of which a lot of people, at least stateside here, have not seen. And it's different. I know that type of violence is not for everybody, but there are people that do enjoy that aspect of it. And the thing about those two guys is those are not two guys that you would consider just deathmatch style wrestlers because they're both incredibly accomplished. I mean, look what Kenny Omega's done over the last couple of years. He's widely regarded as the best wrestler in the world, and Moxley has proved that he's probably wants to be in that conversation too. So I enjoyed it. I know that type of match isn't for everybody, and I know that type of violence isn't for everybody, but I enjoyed it, and there's a large portion of our fan base that enjoyed it too, from everything I've read and heard.
Yeah, I watched some of the match from the dressing room, and about halfway through, I moved over to the viewing area because I wanted to watch it with people. Right. And I'll tell you, there was a lot of people watching through their hands. It was a very violent and kind of scary match because you never want to see one of your locker room mates hurt. So once both guys came out of it and nobody was seriously injured after a match like that, we were just all grateful and happy. And what those two guys gave to the audience was something unbelievable, and I know as a fan myself, I'll never forget it.
Yeah, it certainly speaks to the passion of both of them to put their bodies through that and to risk injury for a match like that, and just how passionate they felt about the match and how passionate they felt about each other to go to those extreme lengths. So yeah, it's going to stand. I think years from now, people will be talking about how violent that match really was.
Had any of you guys messed with that barbed wire spider web they brought out?
I did not mess with that. No.
Stay as far away from that as possible.
I don't
if I
blame
can.
you, man. That's scary.
It's not for everybody.
Right.
All right, so we've seen you guys channel the Rocky III gear coming out earlier this year. Chris, you've had a bit of a Freddie Mercury edge to you in some of the earlier shows. Are there any movies, any pop culture figures you guys want to emulate with your gear in the future?
Well, I saw it was interesting. We announced that we were going to be in Miami, and somebody put out on a tweet that made me laugh, and they said, Scorpio Sky and Frankie Kazarian better dress as Crockett and Tubbs from Miami Vice, which I thought was real funny. But we're always the wheels are always turning. We're always thinking of things we could do, specifically in towns. Like, recently we took part in a Halloween photo shoot where we dressed as Run DMC. We've done bits on BTE where we're dressed as basically John Travolta and Uma Thurman and Sam Jackson from the movie Pulp Fiction. Mm-hmm. We're always thinking of ways to kind of throw that in there. This is dating back to when Chris and I were in TNA Impact, and we would do the Throwback Thursday things. And obviously we've done the 2 Rocky training videos, which were really well received. So I can't really give out any spoilers, but we're always thinking, and it usually has to do with the location of where we're going to be, and we'll usually make it correlate to what our look is going to be that evening.
That's part of the fun. A lot of it is subtle as well. Frankie and I, when we were in the finals of the tag team tournament, we considered ourselves the underdogs. So we wore black and yellow and white, like Rocky colors, again, a good nod to Rocky Balboa. And sometimes people catch it, we wore the red and black and white in Chicago. And a lot of that is, sometimes it's obvious, like the Rocky gear at All In was, and some of it is subtle, like the Rocky, the black and yellow Rocky stuff we did for the finals. Again, that's part of the fun, and when people can pick up on it, it's even better.
You've referred to yourself as an overnight sensation, 17 years in the making. Is that right?
Yes.
What advice do you have for the guys that have been in the business for a while, but are still kind of looking for that thing that really catches on?
It's going to sound cliche, but stay the course. If you really, really want it, remember why you started. Because in this business, there's going to be people that are going to hit right away. And there are going to be people that it takes a while. And I like to look at it as like a sport. Not everybody can be the number 1 pick. Not everyone's going to be LeBron James, the number 1 overall pick. Sometimes you might be a Kobe Bryant, who's number 13, or you might be a Draymond Green, who goes all the way in this second round. But that doesn't mean you can't finish your career as a Hall of Famer. Right. Things start differently for everybody. So stay the course, keep working, never let yourself be satisfied, and never be too proud to accept help and accept advice. Myself, I've been in it for years, and if someone with 1 year's experience has some good advice for me, I'm going to listen to them, because anything that can make me better, that's going to only improve my career and give me more longevity. And that's basically what I would give to anyone out there who's trying to make it.
Anything to add, guys?
No, that was. I mean, he's the living embodiment of never giving up on yourself and believing in yourself, no matter how long it took. In my opinion, for some reason in pro wrestling, there's certain guys that slide through the cracks. That the minute I saw this guy, I said, "This guy's going to be a star." And we're going back to this is like 2004, 2005, or whenever he began, and over those years, remained friendly, remained in touch, and I saw guys that were less talented get more opportunities than him, and that always bothered me. But that's kind of the nature of the beast in the entertainment industry. So when to now see him succeeding the way I always knew he could, and to watch along with the rest of the world, kind of discover him is kind of cool for me to sit back and watch, and cool to see him experience, because this is something that he's worked incredibly hard for, and it's good for CD and I to watch that hard work pay off right in front of our very eyes.
Very cool. Now, I've heard you're a bit of a sneakerhead. Is that true?
Oh yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I'm not too crazy about. Well, depends on how. Yeah, I love it.
He has some shoes.
So I'm curious. We've seen Star Wars collabs. We've seen Marvel collabs. SpongeBob's got his own line of Nikes now. If AEW were to do some sort of shoe collab, who would you want it to be with, and what do you think it would look like?
Oh God, I would love it. Obviously, the Jordan 1 is my favorite shoe of all time. I probably have 15 or 20 different pairs of just different versions of the Jordan 1, and that's just obviously one style of shoe. I also love Air Force Ones. I even like Chuck Taylors and that sort of thing. So if we did a collab, obviously Jordan would be my first pick, but I wouldn't be against Air Force Ones. I wouldn't be against anything with Adidas because I wear Adidas all the time as well, which actually would kind of work since I threw that out in the crowd. Maybe that's a little, I don't know if Adidas would want you throwing their shoe out, but I think any kind of collab we can get would be fantastic, and actually that is definitely a goal of mine at some point in my career to have some type of a shoe collaboration. I think that'd be a dream come true.
Frankie, I know you're sporting the Vans right now.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, those are.
Yeah, it's kind of these are my old school kind of California skateboarder throwback. Like these are the ones that have been like when I was into skateboarding back in the Tony Hawk and Steve Caballero's days. Like this is kind of like the Vans version of the Chuck Taylor, just kind of the old classics. Yeah. No matter how cool my shoes are, this guy's always got cooler shoes on.
He
So it
tops,
doesn't matter.
He tops
Yeah.
out. He tops out.
Well, there you go. Now, Chris, I wanted to ask you this first. So the big conversation in comic books lately has been this debate, it's kind of starting from Martin Scorsese, where they talk about whether or not comic book movies are actually films. I think he said MCU stuff wasn't really cinema.
Okay.
Do you agree with that sentiment, or how do you feel when you hear people say stuff like that?
You know what? It's hard to criticize someone like Martin Scorsese, who's known as an auteur and certainly is a cinephile. But I mean, at the same time, there is art in even the stuff that some people see as mass produced or sort of pop culture popular. Like I've watched Endgame like 6-7 different times, and each time it gets me right in the gut. It's so emotionally stirring to me. And so, I mean, I feel like he's just speaking from a place of really not understanding the world of that specific genre of film. And that's fine. I mean, you don't have to like everything, and I don't certainly like all of everything Martin Scorsese has done. I certainly wouldn't ever say, oh, this isn't cinema just because I don't like it. I think he's just speaking from a place of a lack of knowledge. You know what I mean? And there's going to be people that don't like the things that I like, and let them not like it. I'm not going to. Their points of view aren't going to steer me away from the things that I like, and I think most fans feel that same way about the Marvel movies. I feel like they've done pretty good, and I've enjoyed pretty much everything I've watched, and will continue to watch.
Does he
get you guys to watch Endgame with him, or is that?
Oh, I
don't need to pull them very hard. I mean, they're fans on their own. So
and I also have a 7-year-old son who, in the last year, got super invested into specifically Marvel and specifically the Avengers. And growing up being a fan of comics, and as an adult being a fan of comics, not nearly at the level of this guy, but it's exciting for me to experience that with him just coming up and being really into the movies. And on that point about, I'm of the belief that high tide rises all ships. So I hate to see any time in their industry where there's people are being critical for no reason, really. Like, I don't see that's his opinion, and he's certainly entitled to it because he's done wonderful themes with films. But just that statement, I don't think it behooves the industry at all. We see that a lot in our industry. There are certainly old-timers and legends and Hall of Famers who had great careers that just can't accept that professional wrestling is different. Not necessarily better, not necessarily worse, just different. The NFL is different. Major League Baseball is different. The NHL is different. Basketball is certainly played a lot differently than it was even 20 years ago.
For sure.
Movies are made different. The way we consume media is different. And is there do I love everything about professional wrestling today? Certainly not. But I enjoy most of it. But I'm going to keep the opinions of things I don't like to myself. So I just don't like it when we're, kind of punching down within our industry. Because, like Chris said, if you look at a movie like Endgame, and if you look at the entire spectrum of films, starting with Iron Man, coming up to Endgame, that's what I don't know if there's been a better story told over the course of what's it been? Yeah, 22 films, 11 years, whatever. Yeah, it's so. So I can say I respectfully disagree with that statement, though I'm a fan of Mr. Scorsese's films also. So.
Fair enough. Well, guys, last question for you. You guys are obviously defending your tag titles this week on Dynamite against Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara. How would it feel to give Jericho his first loss in AEW?
Man, how would it feel to, play one-on-one with Michael Jordan and give him a loss? Chris Jericho is one of, if not the greatest of all time. He's called himself the GOAT in the past. You can't argue against him. The way he's reinvented himself, the way he's always been able to stay on top year after year after year. And then you have Sammy Guevara. I'm not going to take anything away from him. He's also a young, dynamic star we have in AEW, and his best days are ahead of him. But to be able to give him his first loss in AEW, because he has been on a roll. He's got a 100% winning record. And again, that would be another historic night for us.
Yeah, when, a popular topic of conversation in wrestling is who's your Mount Rushmore. And certainly I think that Chris Jericho needs to be in that conversation. If you look at his body of work and what he's done across the decades and across the companies, and the guy is still doing it at a high level, and obviously he's the champion of AEW. Having said that, it's going to be very rewarding and a very good moment for SCU to hand him his first loss.
Fantastic. Well, guys, you can catch AEW Dynamite this Wednesday night at the Nashville Municipal Auditorium and every Wednesday night on TNT. Guys, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you very much.